This is the fourth video of the civil drawing. We've gone over to a layout. Now we're going to go ahead and set that up with multiple views. I'll have you in the class set this up on C-size paper, so you'll be using somewhat different scales. I'm going to start, I think, by using, well, I'll go with B-size paper. It means you're going to have a different setup so that whatever I use for scales here is not going to work for what you're doing. And obviously the point here is so that you can set it up yourself and make sure you understand it and not just kind of duplicate what I've done here. So go over to Modify. We'll go ahead and pick a sheet of B-size paper. It's just kind of unrealistic for a civil drawing, but that's all right. See, B-size paper is 11 by 17. I use the monochrome plot style, or the pen style, and everything else I'm going to leave just the same. We'll close this up. Now I'll just go ahead and move that primary view and sort of put it over here like so. Get something set up about like that. Now there's an important distinction here you have to make, and that distinction is between a viewport scale and a plot scale. So let's make a few notes over here just temporarily. Viewport scale is an AutoCAD scale. A plot scale is the real world scale. If the units that you use to create your object or your drawing are the same as the units you use for plotting, in other words, if you draw something in inches and plot it in inches, same units, scales are the same. However, in this case, we have different units for what we've drawn than how we're going to plot it. Let's just take a look at what a scale really is. If you have a scale in AutoCAD, your viewport scale is going to be paper space units to model space units. So a scale is always paper space to model space, the units on the sheet of paper in relation to the units in the real world. So what we have in this case is our paper space units are going to be in inches. So if we have a scale, a viewport scale like 1 to 100, what that means is 1 inch to 100 model space units. Model space units are not inches, they're feet. So that's the viewport scale. That means the real world scale would not be 1 to 100, it would be 1 to 100 feet, or 1 to 1200. That's the difference in the viewport scale and the plot scale. But it's always paper space units to model space units. So if your units are different, you just have to recognize that to determine your actual plot scale. So when we're done and we put a plot scale in the title block, the plot scale we're going to put in the title block, because this is a civil drawing, would look like this. If we used a 1 to 100 scale for our viewport scale, which would in fact be a 1 to 1200 plot scale, it would be written in the title block as 1 inch equals 100 feet, because that's the syntax we use in the United States to represent scale on civil drawings. The 1 inch is on the left, and the number of feet it equals is on the right. The 1 inch never changes. So if we had a scale that was 1 inch equals 1,000 feet, it would be put just the same way. 1 inch equals 1,000 feet. Now I'm going to delete all these notes and go on from here. Okay, let's look at a potential problem here now. What I'm going to do is insert a title block, and the title block I'm going to insert is going to be for B size. A title block, when you create it, should be drawn full size, and for a title block, full size means the size that it needs to be to fit on a sheet of paper. So since this is a B-size sheet of paper, I'm going to bring in a title block that was drawn to fit on an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, so it'll come in at 10 by 16. So I go to the Insert command, I go over and browse in the General folder, and I'll use the TB inch architectural title block. I'll bring it in, and it comes in, asks me for some attributes because Meredith put some attributes in there, but I'm just going to cancel, and now I'm going to go, what on earth happened to my title block? You take a look at that. That title block came in much too small. If I were to select it, right click, actually let's just do a list. Select it in list, Comes up here, and I notice that it's got an x scale factor of 1, a y scale factor of 1, and a z scale factor of 1, which is what a block should be if I bring it in. But it's got something called a unit conversion scale of 0.0833, which happens to be 1 divided by 12. And the reason I'd have that is because back when we set up units, I said to AutoCAD, the insertion units for this drawing are feet because this drawing is being done in feet. So when you bring in something as an insert that was drawn in inches, scale it down so that it actually fits in here. That would have been great if we'd had a house that we'd drawn in architectural units. In this case, however, we have a title block we drew in inches, but we actually want it to come in full size in inches because we're in paper space now where we're dealing with inches, not feet. You can't set two different units, one for paper space and one for model space, but you can change your units at any time. I'm going to go back and reinsert. That block actually is part of this drawing now. And now it comes in the right size because I changed the units to inches. Now if I wanted to, I'd go back and change it to feet again. So if I do want to bring in any content that was drawn in inches into model space, it would come in the right size. Now let's try to determine a possible scale here. I'm going to select the edge of that. I'm going to go down to my scale list. I'm going to look and say, well, the viewport scale I'm looking for will be something in the order of, well, let's try 1 to 100. 1 to 100 is just a little bit small. Let's go back up here and say 1 to 50. 1 to 50 actually looks pretty good. So we'll do that and we'll lock it. Now, if that scale, that viewport scale, is 1 to 50, it means that 1 inch, in this case, is equal to 50 feet because the units in paper space were inches, the sheet of paper. The units we used in model space were feet for a civil drawing. So 1 to 50 as a viewport scale means 1 paper space unit equals 50 model space units, i.e. 1 inch equals 50 feet. So what are we going to put for a scale? In the title block, the scale is going to be 1 to 50. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put a view of the house. I'll put another viewport right here. A little bit too much. What I want to do here now is put just the house in here, but I want the house oriented so that it's horizontal and vertical. So I'm going to go back to my UCS. Once again, let me zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to type the letter Z. I'm going to pick that point right here, another point along that axis. Get a plan view of that coordinate system. Now zoom in on the house so it looks more or less like that. Then I'm going to go over and fiddle around with some scales. I'll try 1 to 30. 1 to 30 doesn't look that good. 1 to 20 doesn't look too bad. What about 1 to 10? Yeah, it's not going to work. 1 to 16, which would be a little bit of an unusual scale in civil, but I'll try 1 to 16 anyway. Now if it's 1 to 16 as a viewport scale, 1 to 16 as a viewport scale means 1 paper space unit equals 16 model space units. So the actual scale here, when we put our detail in, let's just put house detail as our title. Go back under here at 1/8 of an inch and put scale 1 inch equals 16 feet. Again, why? Because 1 unit in paper space equals 16 units in model space, and the model space units are feet and the paper space units are inches.